It's the Rob Carson Show. Are you ready to be podsmacked? Now, here's Rob Carson.
Hello and welcome to episode number 38. We're at 38, ladies and gentlemen, closing in on 40. Closing in on middle-aged, I guess, for a podcast. Hi, how are you? I hope you're great. We've got a ton of stuff to get to on the show today. Been a busy week for me. I've been filling in on KMOX in St. Louis, and it's been a blast. Hopefully, maybe this will be a full-time gig. We will see, but I will continue the podcast regardless. You can check out the Facebook page, Rob Carson Show, and the brand new website, robcarsonshow.com. I want to start with just a brief, I guess, I won't call it an obituary, but it is a sad day. Taco Bell has decided to stop making the naked chicken chalupa. Now, the naked chicken chalupa is something that I have tried. I wouldn't eat it every day, but it's wonderful. It is a taco shell made of fried chicken with all the other ingredients you'd find in a taco in the inside. And it's quite delicious with the Diablo sauce, my personal favorite. It made its national debut on January the 26th. It was wildly popular. It's packed with lettuce, tomatoes, cheddar cheese, and avocado ranch sauce. And according to Taco Bell spokesman Rob Petch, it was planned as a limited time offer. Oh, well, thank you for telling us now. And a second date for a run on this product will be announced soon. All right. Remember when Taco Bell's slogan was make a run for the border? Oh, man. Speaking of that, let's talk a little bit about the DHS and the Trump administration and basically, Donald Trump signed into, as an executive order, he made it so the existing laws for immigration in the country actually are being followed. I know, gasp, shriek. Can you imagine that from a president? Can you imagine actually a country that watched its borders and controlled the flow of immigrants into the country? All right. That's what he's doing. And a lot of people are freaking out about this, and they shouldn't, because the biggest change or the biggest the biggest edict from this is to go after criminally illegal aliens. All right. This is not people who have come here. They've been working here for 10 or 20 years. They have children who've grown up in the country. It's not them. But it's about drug dealers, it's about murderers, it's about rapists, it's about people who are a threat to the country. That's basically it. Department of Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly spoke Wednesday to reporters, just basically to tell everybody, calm the hell down. He said, you have to understand, we're not going out and doing mass deportations. We have laws that I must follow, so we will be looking primarily at criminal offenders first. There is no mass roundups. There are no mass roundups. When we do take someone into custody, they'll then be put into the American legal justice system. That's the courts, and the courts will decide what happens to them. And that's the way they do it anywhere else. Actually, they don't even do it. They're not even that nice about it in other countries. You're not here legally, get the hell out of here. You can't be overstaying. But it's about time we did something about this. The president raised the ire of some people the other day by saying that this was a military operation. He, of course, didn't mean it's actually a military operation. I'll explain in just a second.
As you know, he's in Mexico. I said, that's going to be a tough trip because we have to be treated fairly by Mexico. That's going to be a tough trip. But he's over there with General Kelly, who's been unbelievable at the border. You see what's happening at the border. All of a sudden, for the first time, we're getting gang members out. We're getting drug lords out. We're getting really bad dudes out of this country, and at a rate that nobody's ever seen before. And they're the bad ones. And it's a military operation because what has been allowed to come into our country, when you see gang violence that you've read about like never before, and all of the things, much of that is people that are here illegally. And they're rough and they're tough, but they're not tough like our people.
There you go. So here's what he was trying to say, and this is what I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. You have to be militaristic when you are facing people who are militaristic. When you're talking about drug lords, drug dealers and whatnot, they're heavily armed. And so we are sending in the DHS, and they are treating this as a military operation. So that's essentially what I took from that. He was talking also about Rex Tillerson, the new Secretary of State visiting Mexico. And by the way, Democrats actually have planned from the United States demonstrations in Mexico City at the embassy. Thought you should know about that. But basically what's happening is we're going to get rid of criminal illegal aliens. Dreamers will not be subject to removal. You're going to be constructing the wall. Oh, and here's something interesting, too, by the way. Did you realize that we've already kind of technically built a wall? And did you realize also that it is keeping out 50% of illegals? Did you know that? Ted Cruz actually talked about it yesterday, and he announced it when he was talking with Mark Levin. And he said when he spoke to border security guards, border agents, he said the inflow of illegals is down 50%. So without building a wall, the illegal immigration into this country has already slowed dramatically. That's pretty amazing. All right, let's talk about some other stuff. The Democrat Party isn't offering anything right now but resistance, agitation, and the threat of impeaching a president who's been in office for 1 month. That's basically it. The DNC the other night had a debate against candidates who would be the head of the DNC. Keith Ellison is apparently the front runner for that. He's a radical. He has worked with Louis Farrakhan. He has written anti-Semitic things in the past. Here he is talking about how Donald Trump is already impeachable.
I think that Donald Trump has already done a number of things which legitimately raise the question of impeachment. I mean, on day one, he was in violation of the Emoluments Clause. This is a part of the Constitution.
Yeah, he sounds like he really knows what he's talking about. The Emoluments Clause. Somebody was digging in that, and they fed it to him, of course.
As the president, you can't get payments from a foreign power. The day people checked into his hotel and started paying him, who were foreign dignitaries, he was in violation of that law. There's already a lawsuit filed against him, and right now it's not about only Donald Trump. It is about the integrity of the presidency. So yeah, I think that we need to begin investigations to not go after Donald Trump, but to protect our Constitution and the presidency of the United States, to make sure that nobody can monetize the presidency.
Okay, so he's saying that because Donald Trump owns a hotel in Washington, D.C., and because foreign dignitaries might need a place to stay, and they will pay for the rooms, that is a violation of the Emoluments Clause, which, by the way, I don't know if any Democrat really reads the Constitution. They think it's a living, breathing document. They don't care about the founders until they suddenly decide they need something done, like impeaching the president. I wonder if the dignitaries steal a bathrobe. Is that part of it? I have no idea. I have no idea. But this is just to me, it's embarrassing. And if all the Democrats can do is this, then they will fall flat on their face in the midterms. Mike Pence spoke yesterday, actually, at the CPAC. Now, this is a little bit, I would say, more optimistic, forward-moving versus the Democrats just wanting impeachment.
I say with great confidence, knowing the men and women that he's assembled around this, President Trump has assembled the strongest conservative cabinet in my lifetime, bar none. With this team, we as conservatives have an opportunity that only comes around every few generations, or maybe just once in a lifetime. And my friends, this is our time. This is the chance we've worked so hard for so long to seek. This is the time to prove again that our answers are the right answers for America. A strong military, more jobs, less taxes, respect for the Constitution and the values that have made America great, and a deep and abiding faith in the goodness of the American people.
All right, so lower taxes, more jobs, a stronger military versus impeach Donald Trump. What would you consider to be a more optimistic vision for the future? By the way, housing starts were up dramatically. already this first quarter of 2017. I don't know, guys. They're not offering a lot. Now let's move on to, we might as well talk about LGBT, QRST, and the executive order, basically usurping an executive order by Barack Obama with regard to the use of bathrooms in schools, all right? And I guess anywhere. If you claim that you are a female and you're a male, you have a penis, in other words, you can't go into the women's bathroom. Now, this is turning it over to the states, all right? All this is turning it over to the states. This is not about insisting nationally that this be overturned. It's turning it over to the states, which it should do. Here's Sean Spicer talking about it in a presser yesterday.
Get back to where we were. The Human Rights Campaign, in responding to rescinding the guidance last night, said that this is not a states' rights issue. It's a civil rights issue, and therefore is in the purview of the federal government. Do you disagree that this is a civil rights issue?
It's not. It's a question of where it's appropriately addressed. And I think there's a reason. Like, we've got to remember, this guidance was enjoined last August by a court. It hasn't been enforced. There was no comment period by anyone.
Thank you.
By the Human Rights campaign, by teachers, parents, students. Nobody had any input of this. And it seems to me a little interesting that if this was any other issue, people would be crying foul that the process wasn't followed. The reality is that when you look at Title IX, it was enacted in 1972. The idea that this was even contemplated at that is preposterous on its face. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that the president obviously understands the issue and the challenges that especially young children face. He just believes that this is a state issue that needs to be addressed by states, as he does with a lot of other issues that we've talked about. And so we are a states' rights party. The president on a lot of issues believes in.
That's the first time I've heard that from a Republican in a very long time. Most people don't realize the difference between Republican and Democrat is not liberal and conservative. It's states' rights versus the federal government. That's it.
And these various issues being states' rights, I don't see why this would be any different. And again, if you go through it, it's not just it's how the guidance was issued, it's the legal basis on which it was ordered. It fell short on a lot of stuff. It wasn't us that did this. It was the court that stepped in and said that they hadn't followed the procedure of the law back in August of last year and enjoined the case.
I understand all that. I'm just wondering, does the White House disagree with the position that this is a civil right?
Well, I think it's not a question of whether it's a civil right. It's where it's appropriately addressed. And as I noted, it's appropriately addressed at the state level.
Okay. It's confusing. I get it. But it's not saying wholesale, like the previous president said, that you must do this in all states. It's saying, leave it up to the states. And by the way, if you didn't comply with then President Obama, then you would lose school funding. All your federal school funding out. California is denying Trump on the transgender bathrooms for kids. All right. California State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tom Torlakson, issued a statement on Wednesday saying all students deserve a safe and supportive school environment, unless, of course, you go to the restroom, I should say, that features the genitalia of your birth. Then you can feel uncomfortable, and then you can feel unsafe. California will continue to support and provide that environment for our lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender students, regardless of any misguided directives from the federal government. Here's the thing, Pookie. You're not defying the Trump administration. You do exactly what he said you should do. And that is, if you decide as a state to allow transgendered kids to use the bathroom that they identify with, then that's fine. So you haven't made a big a point here. you haven't really said anything profound here. You're doing exactly what Trump said. So you're not defying, you're actually complying. I like that, actually. Not defying, complying. Or not, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Here's kind of an interesting story. Band directors in Spring Lake Park in Minnesota have decided this year that they are not going to buy music from composers who are white. All right? Now, here's a story from NPR. Get ready to get your espressos out and raise your pinky as you listen to this, because that's generally what NPR stories sound like.
There's a kind of ideological segregation of who can and cannot be in band based on who the composers are and what the music is like and what the experiences of those composers are like.
But this year, some of that changed. The bulletin board has several pictures of composers of color and women. Brian Luckason, one of the school's band directors, says it's an intentional pledge. Include at least one piece by a female composer and one by a composer of color in each concert.
Now we have to have affirmative action for composers.
And when ordering new music.
Yeah, we made a commitment this year to only buy music from composers of color.
How's it going?
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard to find music because there's just not a lot of composers of color that are being published.
But that's not because those composers aren't writing for band.
In the United States, there's a very tight hold over who are the accepted composers.
Yolanda Williams teaches at the University of Minnesota, and she says...
And by the way, the people who have the tight control over the music chosen by composers are probably very left of center.
That composers of color and women are shut out of the canon. They're also often stereotyped.
Rather than assuming Black people wrote spirituals and wrote jazz pieces, they also wrote operas and symphonies and string quartets.
Now, here's the problem that I have with it. I agree if there is a systematic issue with composers and whoever buys their damn music, and I'm not familiar with the music industry, then you address it on that level. But you cannot just tell the kids we're going to get rid of music from white people. That is exclusionary, period. You can include, you can say, yes, it's been very top-heavy with white composers, and we will include a more diverse crowd. But to just say you're not going to buy because the composers are white is wrong. It's wrong, period. No matter what sort of slight has happened in the past. It is wrong. Okay. Let's talk a little about these anti-Trump protests that are going on around the country. Now, I don't know if you know this, but Organizing for Action, which was Organizing for Obama, which at some point was Acorn, which was broken up a few years ago because they're corrupt. They are distributing a training manual to anti-Trump activists. It advises them to bully GOP lawmakers into backing off support for repealing Obamacare, curbing immigration from high-risk Islamic nations, and building a wall. All right? It is a manual. It's called Indivisible. It advises protesters to go into halls quietly as not to raise alarms, grab seats in the front, but don't sit together, spread out in pairs to make it look like there's a broad consensus. This is wrong. All right? It says here, express your concern that they are giving a platform to pro-Trump authoritarianism, racism, and corruption. The goal is to make Republicans, even from safe districts, second-guess their support for the Trump agenda. And it has been absolutely rude, uncivil, bordering on dangerous. Script advisors callers to flood Trump-friendly lawmakers' Hill offices with angry calls and emails, demanding the resignation of top White House advisor Steve Bannon. A script advises callers to complain. I'm honestly scared that a known racist and anti-Semite, which is a lie, by the way, will be working just feet from the Oval Office. It is everyone's business if a man who promoted white supremacy is serving as an advisor to the president. Now, listen to what I just said. They are bussing people in, spreading them out, giving them talking points, telling them to call with a script. Yet, MoveOn.org, a spokesperson on CNN the other day, said it was just like the Tea Party movement. I'll explain why that's wrong.
No, I think that's right. I mean, when we talk about the Tea Party, that was a minority. That was a very extremist right-wing minority that came out.
No, it was not, because more people than wanted Barack Obama's health care plan said no. It was passed against the will of the people. The majority didn't want it. So she's wrong there.
And look what they were able to accomplish. What we're seeing today is very different. I don't think there's much of a comparison. This is the mainstream. This is a mainstream broad uprising by... Again,
no, it's not. It's not, because the OFA has 250 offices nationwide, more than 32,000 organizers with another 25,000 actively under training. They go through a 6-week training program, and it is steeped in Alinsky agitation tactics. It is not broad. It is actually the opposite of that. It is targeted leftists, and This is a load of crap.
Majority of voters, of Americans who did not vote for the president or did not vote at all, or, just said, hey, we do not want these hateful policies. That's what we're seeing. And I think to your point, Chris, elections have consequences.
Yeah. Why do you need talking points then? Why do you need a manual? Why do you need talking points on phone calls? Why do you need talking points when you're in the town halls saying, do your job, do your job? The chants are the same in every one of these. So this is the opposite of what the Tea Party was. The Tea Party was mom and pops who were worried about socializing medicine, going to town halls and telling their duly elected representative on their own terms without being ushered in, being bussed in and given a script. But that didn't stop CBS from fawning all over this faux movement.
He's talking about the progressive websites that seek to marshal his energy and meld it with millions of other opponents of the new president.
I've signed up and really kind of latched on to a lot of different things.
Among them, Indivisible Guide, a new website designed to fight the Trump administration by employing the same pressure tactics the Tea Party used against President Obama.
You will have 3 simple targets: your 2 U.S. senators and your representative.
From petition
Wait a
drives
minute, they use the word target? They use the word target?
to mass rallies and more, these websites attack the system from the left.
Okay. It does. And again, it is not an organic movement. These are not people who are, these are people who are given marching orders from these websites. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. And I believe the hokey pokey is what it's all about as well. Yeah. All right, let's move on. This is kind of interesting. Apparently some people, at least in Great Britain, think the Walking Dead t-shirt that says, "Eeny, meeny, miny, mo," is racist. I think we all know why some people would call it racist. Originally, I believe it was catch a tiger by the toe, but somehow somebody said catch an N-word by the toe. It's a graphic that shows a large American baseball bat wrapped with barbed wire covered with blood. And this is a reflection of an episode, a final episode. I believe it was a major character killed during the season's final episode last week. And he had people in, this guy had these people in front of him. This guy's name is, I'm trying to remember what it was. I don't watch The Walking Dead, but there was a villain at Negan. Yeah, Negan. And he's a bad guy, and he decided to take out one of the main characters, and they were lined up in front of him, and he had this baseball bat, and he did this.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Catch a tiger.
Oh.
By his toe. If he hollers, let him go. My mother told me to pick the very best one. And you are.
Okay, and then he proceeded to cave somebody's skull in. I mean, it's a wonderful show. Certainly a great date night. Popcorn, a glass of wine, watch a guy crush somebody's skull in with a baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire. Yeah, nice. But apparently the Walking Dead fans realize the folly of this. And they have been pouring the complaints in, and who knows whether they'll turn it over. Everything seems to be racist, right? Everything seems to be racist. Here's something interesting. There's a production of Peter Pan that's going on in Canada, all right? They're going to do a production of Peter Pan was met with protest, even after an Alberta theater apologized for its planned use of tribal attire, which is part of the story, all right? Kids dressing up. That's what it's all about. Changing the characters and costumes in response to criticism. The controversy began when members of the Blood Tribe noticed a promotional photo for the play featuring cast members wearing face paint and buckskin clothing. My God, how terrible. Actors act as a lot of things. There There are a lot of, like, for instance, the hobbits in the Hobbit movies. They were human beings that actually were actors, and they dressed up as hobbits. It's weird, right? It's weird, right? The issue itself kind of really touched a nerve within the community because, we deal with racism on a daily basis, and this is our traditional territory, said Lori Braverock, a First Nations activist. Like I said, it's 2017, time for things to change, all right? So the theater took down their Facebook page, wrote an apology to the First Nations people. The theater owner, Alana Levitt, said there was no intent to offend in our production of Peter Pan. By saying that, in our ignorance, we have offended. We asked many of the First Nations people to audition. Unfortunately, they did not. Oh, really? In hindsight, we wish that we would have consulted the First Nations people, because you've got to consult people now. Or wish they would have let us know the offensive parts in our show. We obviously did not have the cultural sensitivity to recognize it for ourselves. Kathy Rigby played a boy. Were there a group of 12-year-old boys that were angry because of that? She played Peter Pan for years. On Facebook, Brave Rock criticized parts of the theater's apology, saying it should have been based upon the official, or I should say, issued upon the official Carriage House Theater, which is the owner's personal signature, and that going forward, the theater should not help promote First Nations productions. So even the groveling, the apology, the changing of the costumes is not enough. That's the way it generally is with people who are so offended by everything. I am truly sorry all of this transpired. It gets very tiring having to endure the cultural insensitivity time and time again. And if I were in the company's shoes, I would have canceled the Peter Pan production altogether to send a strong message of inclusivity. But again, that's just me, according to Brave Rock once again. This isn't the first time Peter Pan has drawn critics. In 2014, Smithsonian Magazine did an entire article on the racist history of Peter Pan's Indian tribe. So there you go. Kids dressing up like Indians. It's offensive. We are very offended people. Whatever happened with the First Amendment? Well, it's Canada, I guess. I like to be offended. I like the fact that we can be offended and we can get away with it without being thrown in jail. It's kind of nice. A new North Carolina billboard has people angry. We're on the offense bandwagon here, right? The billboard reads, "Real men provide, real women appreciate it." The owner of a Winston-Salem women's boutique called Claire has organized a demonstration against the billboard. We're not protesting that the sign is capable of existing or the people who put it up or the ad agency or right to put it up. We are protesting patriarchy and sexism. And that this antiquated way of thinking exists at all is essentially a problem, all right? So it says, real men provide, real women appreciate it. I spoke last night on KMOX about this, and I had a woman call up and said, real men don't just provide a paycheck. Real men provide companionship. They provide strength. They provide fatherhood. And real women appreciate that. And I think that's the angle they need to take on it, because we provide more than a paycheck. To just say real men provide, real women appreciate it is not about just the money. If that does, it makes you and me, me, if you're a woman, obviously not, at least if you identify, whatever. Anyway, I'm a guy, I'm a dad, and there are things that I provide other than a paycheck. And sometimes I don't provide that. All right. Oh, here's something. Apparently taxpayer-funded Marshall University in West Virginia is holding a clothing drive for cross-dressing students. Okay. So they're doing a transgender clothing drive. How could you tell? Technically, if you go in the Salvation Army and you see racks of clothes, it's already a transgender clothing drive. Because if you identify as a woman and you're a guy, there's the rack. Go right over there. I don't know why they needed it. How could you tell which is the transgender? Look, there's a bathing suit. Is that a transgendered bathing suit or a regular bathing suit? I guess maybe the one for the man identifying as woman might be a little looser in the front. I'm just saying, might be a little looser, the lower part of the bikini. Millions of people have been watching and waiting in anticipation for the birth of a giraffe at the zoo in Harpersville, New York. They set up a webcam. It's been seen by 20 to 30 million viewers. The giraffe is expecting her calf any day with her mate, but YouTube has pulled the live stream due to pornographic content. This is pornographic content, I guess. YouTube guidelines. Sexually explicit content like pornography is not allowed. Videos containing fetish content will be removed or age restricted depending on the severity of the act in question. In most cases, violent, graphic, or humiliating fetishes are not allowed to be shown on YouTube. So I'm concerned about the person at YouTube that saw the giraffe and decided that the giraffe was sexual or fetish content. I would seriously question the person who decided that. There's something wrong with that person. All right? There's something a little wrong with that person. Okay, it's time for me to get out of here. I've given you about 30 minutes of my time, and thank you for giving me 30 minutes of yours. Make sure to check out the new website. It is robcarsonshow.com, robcarsonshow.com. Both Facebook pages, one, my daily show, which is at Rob Carson Show, and then my food blog, which just happens to be Rob Carson's Table. Have a glorious rest of your day, night, or otherwise, and we'll see you next time for episode 39.
Thanks for listening to The Rob Carson Show. Friend him on Facebook at Carson Show, on Twitter at Rob Carson, and on Instagram, I think Facebook and Twitter are enough for now. We'll see you soon.